Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberkaş. It was the deadliest incursion into Israel since the October War, exactly 50 years ago. In a wide, coordinated attack, Hamas launched an assault into Israeli towns along the border with Gaza. Israeli officials said they are now in a state of war and described the attack as a serious intelligence failure. They vowed to inflict an unprecedented price on Hamas in Gaza, which includes a total siege on the more than 2 million people living in the area.
We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no gas.
Hamas launched its operation on Saturday, killing more than 900 Israelis while also taking over 150 people hostage. The incursion was followed by hundreds of rockets. Israel responded with its own counterattack with massive airstrikes on Gaza that leveled entire buildings. Gazan health officials say more than 700 people have been killed in missile strikes and gun battles. The number of deaths on both sides is expected to rise in the coming days. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that both Israelis and Palestinians are suffering and reiterated Turkiye's desire to help stop the conflict and bring peace to the region. Gaza has been under a crippling blockade since 2007 and is expected to suffer further under the siege. And for more on the difference of this latest conflict in Gaza compared to years past, joining me now from Trieste, Italy, is Federico Donelli. He is an assistant professor at Trieste University. And from Istanbul, Tarık Cherkaoui. He is the head of the TRT World Research Center. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Federico, what's your reaction to what we have seen so far?
Yeah, the reaction, of course, was unexpected something because nobody was expecting such kind of attack by Hamas on Israel. And if you want, we can link this unexpected attack with the failure of intelligence information, not only Israel intelligence information, but also Western intelligence, because everybody was expecting something, but from the north. So from the Syrian and Lebanese borders. So we can say that Hamas was couldn't send some kind of false red flag before this attack.
So, Tarek, how different is this compared to past conflicts?
Well, I think the main item that is different is the effect of surprise. I think Israel used to have the effect of surprise and had the surprise in their favor in 1948, in 1956, except 1967, and then except for 1973, and 50 years later, date for date, I think Hamas got the element of surprise in its initiative, and it has taken the establishment by complete surprise. And I think it's not just an intelligence failure; it's more than that. I think there are a lot of elements to dissect. One of them is probably the complacency that has characterized the security apparatus in Israel. The fact that there are divergences and discord inside the population, and we have seen the demonstrations against Netanyahu. The head of Shin Bet, who is supposedly the Shin Bet is the organization in charge of the intelligence gathering in the area of Gaza. They were also part of that dynamics and supported the demonstrators. So I think there is the element of the intelligence blunder, but there's also other elements that have to be analyzed.
So, Federico, what's the ultimate goal of Hamas by attacking Israeli civilians? I mean, and also, what do you make of Israel's reaction to these unprecedented attacks?
Of course, there was a kind of symbolic attack because this is the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. So that is important if we consider the agenda of Hamas. But in practical terms, I believe that Hamas was expecting some kind of siege of Gaza and most probably the upcoming invasion of Gaza by IDF. So I believe that Hamas was expecting some kind of war within Gaza. And war within Gaza means even casualties, not only from the Palestinian side, especially civilian, but also from the Israeli side. So I believe that they are looking for a kind of war of attrition in Gaza.
So, Tarek, how has these latest incidents exposed Israel's security vulnerabilities and hurt its image as a deterrent state?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that were shattered was the deterrence doctrine of Israel, because the sheer power that the state has and the violence, the state violence applied on Palestinians had one aim, and one aim only, is to subdue this population and make it subservient to the state's objective. Now we are seeing that these attacks have shattered this image, and it has exposed the Israeli state apparatus with a budget of $25 billion a year. It's a massive security budget, and these are like just a group. We have seen the means that they have used, like parachute gliders and motorcycles and bulldozers. I mean, these are very, very rudimentary means of war, but still there is one aspect that Israel has to think about, is that might is not right, and they need to talk to the Palestinians. They need to solve this problem, because the way how Netanyahu and his far-right government was doing is trying to just sweep things under the carpet and pretend that the Palestinians don't exist, and he's going to do peace with the Saudis and the Mauritanians. No, these things don't work, and now he has been facing the reality. It's a reality check for Israel and for Netanyahu himself.
So, Federico, will there be any political fallout for Netanyahu? I mean, how would that impact the country's internal divisions, as well as the relationships between Israel's civilian leaders and the military?
Yeah, there could be some consequences, even though in the, we can say, short term, I'm expecting more that this war will recompact Israel people. I mean, even though among Israelis, there are many that disagree with the reaction, of course, the setback or the rally around the flag idea is something that we have to consider in the short term. If we analyze in the long term, of course, this could be the end of Netanyahu era, because there will be some consequences within the political sphere and political party sphere of Israel.
So Israel has already started pounding targets in Gaza, but Tarek, is a ground operation by Israel into Gaza imminent now, and will it be a solution to this problem?
I think this is exactly what Hamas is capitalizing on. I think they are ready to sustain all this aerial bombardment. They have seen this before. This movie has been shown to them before. They have seen the might of the Air Force, the Israeli Air Force. They know exactly what kind of bombardments they will sustain. They are ready to pay that price.
But aren't they jeopardizing the lives of innocent civilians living in the Gaza Strip?
Well, I think, unfortunately, these are some of the costs for asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare is based on exactly having this sort of resistance among civilian population, because there is no other form or shape of struggle against Israel that is rendered possible. Even peaceful struggle is not possible. We have seen when in 2018 they tried to demonstrate in the gates of Gaza how they were shot down by waves, and 118 Palestinians were gunned down like animals in the open air. So I don't think they have that many options. What they do now is they expect this invasion via land, and I'm sure the ones who have prepared this daring operation have also plans for this sort of military environment.
So, Federico, what are the military options for Israel, keeping in mind that over 100 Israeli hostages are being held by Hamas?
We know that they are already began the siege of Gaza, and most probably they will launch a land operation in the upcoming hours, because they want to recover all the kidnapped citizens. At the same time, most probably they would like to, in some way, tackle the much as possible of Hamas militias. But it is not easy, because this could be a kind of tricky operation, because if you decided to operate among civilians, that would be a big problem, as Tarek underline asymmetric warfare would create a lot of casualties and would create also a lot of international reaction.
Besides creating casualties, Israel also announced a total siege on Gaza, Tarek, and we know that the region will be cut off from electricity, fuel, and goods coming from Israel. How does depriving civilians from essential resources fit in international law and conventions?
Well, this is a total breach of international conventions and international law. Unfortunately, Israel hasn't been faring well in terms of abiding by international laws. And we have seen how many resolutions by the United Nations and how many calls for restraint and have never been answered by the Israeli leadership in the past 80 years or so. So unfortunately, the civilians will continue to pay the highest price in this unfortunate tragic situation in Gaza. But I think the Israelis, even though if they bomb the city to the smithereens, they are the ones who are going to lose a lot of their image and capital in other nations around the world, because this completely dissolves their discourse on wanting to normalize and doing peace. Now this normalization train will come to a stop, and I think it's going to also change a lot of the data that exists in relations to this conflict.
So, Federico, what do you make of Ankara's response to this latest violence? Could it play a part in easing hostilities, as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan claimed that Turkiye wants to bring peace to the region?
Turkey is one of the actors that could do something. I mean, we know that they've got diplomatic channels open with all the actors involved, but I believe this is not something that only Turkey can address, but there's need of involvement of other key actors, and specifically Egypt and maybe Qatar. So I think these three countries could do something, of course, with the support backed by international community as well.
So, Tarek, what do you make of the Iranian position so far? First, Iranian parliamentarians celebrated the Hamas's attack, and then the government rejected accusations that Tehran helped plan Hamas's attack on Israel and gave green light for this assault. So what's at stake for Iran right now?
Well, to be honest, I don't think even though on the face of it, some Iranians are rejoicing, but I think the reality, this conflict has placed Iran on a hard spot, because it has exposed its linkages to many militias in the Middle East, and Hamas is one of them. But I don't think, to be honest, that this was planned in conjuncture with the Iranians. I think they know that Hamas were building up capacity, but I don't think they knew the time or space for the attacks. I think this was very well kept secret by one leadership or very close leadership of Hamas, and this is what ensured the strategic surprise over Israel. If they had divulged this kind of information even to other allies or even to their own Hamas members, this would have been known by Israel, days before, if not weeks before. So I don't think they planned this really in conjuncture. I think the Iranians are displeased because if there is a linkages that shows their participation, they're going to pay a very high cost for this.
So, Federico, do you think the events of the weekend would have been avoided if the Palestinian question had been resolved with the creation of a Palestinian state?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is just the result of many years of discrimination, but also, and that is important that we underline, there's a general lack of leadership among Palestinians, especially the growing influence and power of Hamas is proportional to the weakness of Palestinian Authority. And that is the biggest problem. On the other hand, of course, we need that Israel will be willing to open a new discussion to bring to a two-state solutions.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk. Appreciate it a lot.